and welcome to the latest edition of Doorstep History.
Which today is coming from the police lockup on Steelhouse Lane in Birmingham.
And of course we're pleased that you could join us.
Norman's back with his jokes.
Also coming up in this edition, it's happy birthday to an 80-year-old and how a dragon became a pig.
But first...
The police lockup on Steelhouse Lane closed in March 2016. It's now being opened up on various days so that people can have a look inside. Depending on the success of a feasibility study and of obtaining funding, it could become the new police museum. So you're being interviewed in connection with wanting to open this building up to the public.
We've decided to open up the lockup to the public to give people a chance to have a look around this old facility and see some of our items from our heritage collection. And we are currently looking for a new home for our police museum, which has been at Sparkhill Police Station for the past 20 years. Sparkhill Police Station is due to be sold, and we are looking to relocate the collection and relaunch our museum and our heritage ambition.
Well, judging by the number of people who attended the open days, there was a lot of support for the museum plan, especially from youngsters.
We came here to have fun and learn, really. It's good history, and you can learn a lot about the prisons.
What do you think?
So then people can see the past as those people were there, and people obviously are going to want to know the secrets about this world. So this is showing it. And I was pretending to be drunk, and the police officer was coming. I'm not very good at pretending to be drunk because I've never been drunk. Oh, that's good though. But drunk people would be put on this bed, so if they're drunk, they're obviously going to jump and do crazy stuff, and the bed can fall through if it was a normal bed, so it's best if we can just have a low bed because then it won't fall through. And this style is horrifying.
I've learned about the bed thing, about the drunks.
Oh, and the Mecca, when the arrows on the ceiling are for them when they pray to Mecca.
So, who's going to be a future police officer?
Me!
And why do you want to be a police officer?
Because I can arrest criminals.
That is a good reason.
The next phase of the expansion of the Midland Metro tram network officially got underway when one of Birmingham's most iconic statues, Iron Man, was lifted out of Victoria Square, a tremendous feat of engineering and workmanship. The West Midlands Mayor gave the signal to start the lift.
Is it lifting? There we go, and the feet are being revealed.
Two cranes slowly raised the 6-ton metal sculpture out of the ground. The removal of Iron Man, created by renowned artist Anthony Gormley, marked the start of work on the new £149 million West Side tram extension. Iron Man, which was erected in 1993, is now standing in the direct path of the extension, will be given a clean-up by conservation specialists and put into storage by Birmingham Museums Trust. It's scheduled to return to a new spot in Victoria Square late next year.
At the moment, the Metro concludes at New Street Station. It's going to come through Victoria Square, out through Paradise to Five Ways. And just to make way for the construction, we needed to move the Iron Man. He will be back by the end of next year, a new spot just in front of the Town Hall. So he's going to have a bit of a spruce up, and he'll be back, as I say, the end of next year.
The Transport Museum proved it was just the ticket for bus and nostalgia enthusiasts who turned out to commemorate the 70th and 80th birthday of two of the museum's oldest working former Birmingham City Transport buses.
That's right, yes. The one pre-war one, that has been the oldest operational Birmingham bus for a very, very long time. But we've got another one coming through, hopefully be back on the road next year, that is even older. But today, that's the oldest one, and it's its 80th birthday. Then, after the war, they had to replace the entire fleet, We got rid of all the trams, we got rid of all the trolley buses, all the old bus fleet. The whole lot was replaced after World War II. And the other one that celebrated its 70th birthday, that was one of the first of the post-war deliveries.
So what do you think is the appeal for this? It's the nostalgia aspect, obviously, but there's lots of people here today.
Yes, it's the same sort of appeal that the steam railways have. It's just taking you back to an era that has completely gone. Once you get on one of our buses, you're back in the 1940s or 1950s. There's a conductor there taking your fare, checking your tickets.
Enthusiasts were able to ride to and from the city centre in one of the former open-back Midland Red buses, which was built in 1965, adding a touch of realism to their nostalgic journey. Now behind me is a vintage police car which dates from 1993, and Sarah is talking with the owner.
So what makes this so special?
This car started life as a chief constable's in Staffordshire as an unmarked vehicle, so it was his staff car. It then went on to driver training duties. Following a short period with that, he then went to be into workshops and was then liveried and fitted with blue lights and sirens and became an M6 motorway patrol vehicle. It's unusual as a Jaguar because A, it's a manual gearbox, which most aren't. It's also very luxurious inside. In fact, it still has walnut trim and part leather upholstery, which you would not get in an everyday patrol vehicle. I own this vehicle, which is an ex-Staffordshire motorway patrol vehicle from '93, as you said. I also own an ex-West Midlands CMPG Range Rover from 1999. Obviously, they're both out of service, and they are literally just classic cars. What we do is we buy them when they're out of service, and then we restore them.
So this building opened in the early 1890s and it's attached to the Victoria Law Courts. It had 67 cells initially, which reduced over the years as some of them were turned into alternative facilities such as medical officers' room and the documentation room and staff toilets, things like that. So it operated as an operational custody block until March last year. So even though it retains a lot of its original Victorian features, it still was used relatively recently. We're really, really fortunate to have an amazing team of volunteers, many of which who have only joined us quite recently. The majority of them are retired police officers who've come forward to want to engage with the public and interact and get children to enjoy our heritage, but also members of the public. So we've had a lady who came to our first open day and volunteered her services and has since been a key feature of the team running the open day events. And also a local historian, Kay Hunter, who his knowledge on capital punishment is second to none. And
what do you think about the idea of turning this into a museum?
I think it's a good idea, very good idea, because as you can see, a lot of people like coming here and looking round, and it's an open day for the kids.
So this year we commemorated 120 years since the death of PC George Snipe in 1897. He was killed by George Cloggy Williams, who was later convicted at the Birmingham Assize Court and sentenced to penal servitude for life for throwing the brick that fatally injured PC George Snipe. So he would have been held here and he would have faced trial here in this building.
PC Snipe was buried yards from his home at Warstone Lane Cemetery, and a crowd of over 20,000 members of the public formed what was described as a striking demonstration of sympathy. Eventually, a man named Cloggy Williams was charged with his murder. This photo of him already appeared in police records following an earlier misdemeanour. He was found guilty of manslaughter, the judge stating that he intended to injure the PC but not kill him. 120 years on, and Karen Hancox has visited West Midlands Police. PC Snipe was her great-great-uncle, and she saw his name on their new digital Roll of Honour.
It means a lot for me to be here today, to see that the police are still remembering that my great-great-uncle was killed in the line of duty, and that we can come and see his remembrance here and his Roll of Honour.
It was then that this box was opened, revealing the very helmet that PC Snipe had worn on the night of his murder.
It means a lot to us that our museum exists, and we care very deeply about our heritage and our fallen officers in particular. It's very important that not only we but the public remember the sacrifice that they've made, and this is part of the collection that we work very hard to preserve and to share with the public in our museum.
It's still got blood on it as well, hasn't it? And it's very moving, actually.
It's quite humbling to hold his actual hat that he wore at the time of his death.
With the help of the long arm of the law, there was a ceremony at Newtown Police Station, which has since been built on the road where PC Snipe was killed. Today, 120 years later, Karen and Corinne are about to lay some flowers. A simple but dignified act of remembrance, recalling the loss of a police officer in an incident which shocked the city. A poignant reminder that for over 120 years, police officers have been putting their lives at risk on a daily basis.
And finally today, as we said at the start of the programme, how do you turn a dragon into a pig?
We're talking about pub names, in case you hadn't guessed.
The former George and Dragon pub in the Jewellery Quarter, which fell into disrepair, has been renovated and reopened as the Pig and Tail. The regeneration work has so impressed the Civic Society that they have given the building a prestigious Renaissance Award.
I think we're just over 80 blue plaques and history plates across our city, and also built environment is an important issue to us, so we comment and influence new developments across the city, and also we reward the built heritage that we've already got, and that brings us to the Renaissance Award this evening.
But this is virtually unique and in fact straddling two corners, Hope Street and Carver Street, and I think that because it straddles two and gives this great focal point, makes the square here, Dare Square and Albion Street itself, something quite different, and it's really added to the Jewellery Quarter and beyond.
The pub, which has stood on this site for around 150 years, already seems to be regaining its popularity in this part of the Jewellery Quarter, an area of the city which is undergoing massive regeneration, which is leading to more people living in the area as they did in the days of Kathleen Deas. She wrote about the pub in her popular stories about life in the Jewellery Quarter in days gone by. So that's it for the latest edition of Doorstep History, coming from the lockup on Steelhouse Lane in Birmingham.
So join us again next month when we'll be looking at remembrance. And if you've got a story for us, get in touch with us on the address at the end of the programme. Thanks for watching and goodbye.
Bye.